I'm joined right now with Michael Corriera. Is that how you pronounce your name, Michael Corriera?
Corrieri.
Corrieri. Okay, I'm with Michael Corrieri, who has a play being produced in Russia. And since the events of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it's topical to speak with him about his experience. And Michael, this play that you're having made in Russia, this all began with you. And this is based on an article you wrote for Primo Magazine on our website, www.onlineprimo.com. This all began with an email that you sent to a very important person in Russia. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, let me just say that I'm in negotiations with two theater companies in Russia.
Okay.
One is in Moscow, one is in St. Petersburg, and there's a third one that's in Belarus. The question is here that I've had an ongoing account with Vladimir Putin for many years, and I've been corresponding with him, but through the Russian Federation, of course. I don't think he sees my emails, communications. But every time I've ever sent him anything, I've always gotten a response from one of his agencies, like the Foreign Relations Department, or the Russian Theater Union, or the Russian Federation.
How about that? What made you start emailing him some years back? What was the reason for it?
Well, I was doing research many years ago for my film. I was doing research on, believe it or not, UFOs and the supposed UFO crash in Roswell, New Mexico, when I happened to stumble across a story about two Army Air Force intelligence officers who were killed under mysterious circumstances a month after the Roswell crash. So I've been doing research for any number of years, and my documentary film, is based largely on that information that I've gathered over the years. So what I did was, once I put my documentary film together, I tried to get it into the Moscow International Film Festival. And because of its content, they would not allow me to even submit my film. So what I did was I sent a communication to Vladimir Putin, and I asked him to intervene on my behalf. I even offered to send him a copy of my film so that he could look at the film and decide whether or not it violated any of his protocols. And he has very specific protocols. And since my film deals with the old Soviet Union to a large degree, it can be considered a political film. And that's where the problem lies. Now, my play is based somewhat on my film, and that it deals with these two Army Air Force intelligence officers, but also on a group of Soviet spies that were working out of the British Embassy in Washington. And my play deals with the fact that the British government had contacted the American government, and they wanted to know if this British liaison officer by the name of Kate Masterson, who worked for British intelligence, they wanted her to go into the British embassy to find out if this guy was indeed a Soviet spy. So that's what my play is all about, which can also be considered a political play. So when you try to produce something in Russia, okay, you cannot deal with traditional theater companies because they receive most of their funding through the Russian Federation and the Russia Theater Union. And so you have to deal outside of those traditional theater companies. And that's what I've been doing. The theater companies that I'm doing are anti-Russian. They're anti-Putin. As a matter of fact, one theater company has been, they have arrested the actors several times. And every time they go to open up a new place to do their productions, the Soviet secret police or the Russian secret police happen to find out where they are, and they end their productions or whatever play that they're putting on. So now what they do is they find a location where they can do their play, and they send out specific invitations to people whom they know are sympathetic to them. And that's how they get their audience.
How about that? Now, the play right now, since the events have occurred, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, I'm assuming that the play is on hold, or what's the situation now with the play and your efforts to get it produced
Yeah,
in Russia?
yeah, the play is on hold for now until we find, especially in Belarus, because Belarus came out in support of Vladimir Putin. So can't get anything done there. And I think I told you I have a contact in Moscow. She is a translator.
Right.
And when you decide that you want to have your play produced or film produced in Russia, you have to have it translated into Russian. And so I came into contact with this Russian translator, and I contacted her the day that Vladimir Putin was on national TV in Russia, telling the Russian people what was going on. So I asked her, I said, well, what's going on over there? Is he going to invade, a full invasion? So she told me that the Ukrainians were terrorizing Russian territories, that they were invading Russian territories. And this was the reason why Putin was going to go in and invade the Ukraine. I tried to contact her this morning, by the way. As a matter of fact, I've been trying most of the night, but I haven't been able to get through to her. I think the Russians have just ended all communications out of Moscow, so you can't get through to these people anymore.
It's almost like a return to the old days of the Cold War.
Yes, with the old Soviet Union, you're exactly right. I know in my film it was an official selection of the new filmmakers. I had made arrangements with them to give me the link so that I could send it to various theater companies in both Moscow and St. Petersburg, so they could view my film. And what I found out was that the Russians, the Russian Federation had stopped that link from being available to those theater companies.
Do you know of any other Americans who are trying to get their plays produced in Russia? It seems like you're one of the few people who has actually had some success in getting a play produced in Russia.
As far as I know, there are no other playwrights that are trying to get one of their productions. There may be some who are trying to get a film made there, but I'm not sure of anybody who wants to have their play produced there. And again, they have to meet these protocols that Putin set down in the St. Petersburg International Cultural Forum. And what those protocols say specifically is that no play or film can demean Russian people, the Russian Federation. When you talk about the Russian Federation, you're talking about Putin himself. And people have to understand that everything in Russia is political, everything.
Yeah.
So that's the way it is over there. So it's very difficult to deal. You've heard the expression red tape.
Yeah.
That's what it is over there. It's red tape because every time I've gotten a communication back, they've referred me to this agency and that agency and this agency and that agency, you know. But I have made contacts in those agencies. They know my name over there. It's just that I can't get any information.
Well, when you had sent the email, you were corresponding with Vladimir Putin. I don't know if can you tell us how you are able to tell us how you got the contact information for someone so.
Well, yeah, well, anybody can do that. All you have to do is go on the internet and say that you want to send a letter or communication to the president of Russia, and they'll direct you to a site. And when the site comes up, you have to set up an account with them. Once you set up your account, a form will come up and give you information, a message area where you can message the president. After you send that out, you will get a copy back saying that your communication has been received by the Russian Federation, and they will try to respond as quickly as they can.
Interesting.
So that's the way it is. But
Yeah.
anybody can do this.
How about that? Interesting. He never. I'm assuming Putin never corresponded with you himself, right? I mean, it must have been a staff member that talked to you.
Yes, that's what I assume. But it has to, when you talk about the Russian Federation, you're talking about Putin, but he has people that deal with this, the same as the agencies here in the United States. When you try to contact the president or somebody,
Yeah.
they have people that take care of those communications. And what happens is your communication is sent off to a different agency that might deal with your problem or your request. So that's why it works there.
And your play was you didn't hear any response apparently, and then one day you logged onto the computer, and sure enough, they had informed you that they had moved your play forward to an important agency there to help get your work
Yes,
done. Tell us about that a little bit.
yes, the Russian, it's called the Russian Theater Union. And what they have is a catalog. And the catalog consists of all foreign plays. And it's made available to every Russian theater company in Russia. So what happened was my play, or the synopsis of the play or information about my play was sent there. And they had sent me back a communication telling me that my play had been accepted to be part of their catalog. So I believe I sent you a copy of that communication. If I'm
Yeah,
not
but what about the catalog? How big is this catalog? What's it look like? I mean, like a phone
I've
book type?
never, I've never seen the catalog.
Hmm.
I've asked several times to find out how many plays are in the catalog, but they never give you any information.
So somebody
They've
must have
never
seen
told me.
that. Somebody must have seen your play in the catalog and then responded to you directly. Is that how it worked for you? Or
No, I made personal contact. I was advised by the Russian Federation to seek out theater companies myself. They told me that these theater companies can do whatever they want, which is not true, of course,
mm,
since they received their funding from the Federation. They can't just go out and produce anything. If they did, and it violated these protocols, they'd have their funding cut off. So what I did was I looked for theater companies that had people working for them who spoke English, could understand my play, were more radicalized, if I could use that terminology, and weren't afraid to take a chance and do a play like mine, which is a political play that deals with the old Soviet Union. So that's what I did.
what's it? Just give us a title of the play. Also, it's
It's called, it's called For England for Love, and it deals, I said, with this Russian, they were called the Cambridge Five. It's a Russian spy team that
yeah.
came to the United States to spy for Stalin
Mm-hmm.
back in the Cold War. And they were operating out of the British Embassy in Washington. So what they did was they recruited Kate Masterson, who was a world famous artist. That's my play, and wanted her to go into the British Embassy and find out if that was true. And since she was a world famous artist, she went into the embassy under the guise that she was going to do a portrait of the British ambassador.
Hmm.
As it winds up, she was a part-time spy for the British, and the person that she was after there was a part-time Soviet spy, but she didn't know that originally. That's the play, you see. But eventually they get to know each other, and actually they fall in love with each other in my play. So I don't want to give the ending
Yeah,
away
of course,
because
right, sure. But it sounds like a very interesting story. No doubt about it. Yeah. What now you mentioned in the article too about how there's legal differences in a person who writes a play in Russia versus here in the United States. You mentioned the Berne Convention and some other things. Just tell us a little bit about that, if you will.
well, the Berne Convention, even the old Soviet Union, even the Russians signed the Berne Agreement, and what that basically is, it gives certain rights to playwrights who want to produce their plays in Russia, and there are certain guarantees. Um, but again, if you have any intention of doing anything in Russia, you need legal advice. You have to have lawyers that are going to represent you, because the language itself is so opposed, diametrically opposed, that you need somebody who's very good with translating these things. So you have to be able to understand what they're talking about, and they have to be able to understand what you're talking about.
Sure.
But legally, supposedly, they're supposed to guarantee you the same rights that were guaranteed under the Berne Convention.
Hmm. And you mentioned something about moral rights. Now that was interesting, and that it sounds to me that they can't produce a play if it's radically different from what you wrote. Is that right, or that was my interpretation of it,
Yeah.
at least?
Again, that's debatable. Again, it depends on what kind of property that you're trying to get produced over there.
Hmm.
If it's a political play like mine, I have major obstacles if I'm dealing with a
Yeah.
reputable theater company there. But if I'm dealing with a radical theater company, the requirements are maybe different.
And now the person that did the translation for your work, have you talked to anybody else over there in recent weeks about the invasion of Ukraine? Any other assessments that you have there about how people feel about it?
Well, she was the first person that I thought of because she is working on my play to try to get a proper translation. As a matter of fact, if I do happen to get lucky and get my play produced over there, she will work on set because, as I said before, the language is so diametrically opposed that uh, sentences or dialogue in my play can be translated differently. So she would be on set and she would make sure that my words, my dialogue comes out the way I want it to come out for my play. But she was the best example. I don't want to give you her name or anything
Of
like
course.
that, but she's very, very intelligent woman. She is, I guess, convinced that the Russians, that Putin is doing the right thing.
Mm.
But then again, I don't know what the news situation is over there, what kind of propaganda that they get over their TV
Right.
sets,
Mm, mm,
so I don't know.
mm.
But I do know this, and I've made these comments before. If you remember, I think you're old enough to remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. Do you remember that?
Well, it was a little bit before my time, but I know about it, of course.
Okay, so I'm a little bit older than you then. But what happened was that Nikita Khrushchev, who was the premier, brought in offensive nuclear weapons into Cuba. And Kennedy demanded that they be taken out of Cuba because he said, we cannot allow any offensive nuclear weapons to be brought into the Northern Hemisphere because that would be a direct threat to the United States. Now, what Vladimir Putin has said in the beginning, he told Zelensky from the Ukraine, he said, look, he says, if you go into NATO, that's going to give NATO an opportunity to bring offensive nuclear weapons into Ukraine. And there, since you're right on our border, that's a threat to Russia.
Right. Mm.
Now, to me, that's no different than what we were saying to the Soviets.
Right.
See?
Right. Right. Right.
So I can understand Putin's, concerns about security.
Mm.
But then again, you have Putin who wants to put together the old Soviet Union again, so he may have other plans.
Sure.
But I do think that this plan was put together a long time ago. I mean, think about it. You're going to invade the second or third largest country in Europe. Do you put this plan together in a day or a
Yeah.
week or a
Yeah.
month?
Yeah.
You know, I think it was put together even before Trump became president.
Mm.
And I don't think that Putin decided to act on it because, quite frankly, I think he was afraid of Trump. I think number one, he respected Trump, but I think he was afraid of Trump.
Maybe. Yeah. I think some people are saying because of what happened after the Afghanistan retreat. That
Afghanistan,
yeah,
yes,
that he probably
exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Because you have Joe Biden, the way he pulled out of Afghanistan,
Right.
Putin saw an advantage there. What surprises me is that the leader of China hasn't moved against Taiwan. Can you
That's scary.
imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine now with NATO forces being tied up in Europe and the United States backing the Ukraine, what would stop the Chinese from going into Taiwan? What would we do? What
Yeah.
what could we do
Yeah.
about that?
Right. 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 Yeah. It's just the return to the old days, and I wish we'd go beyond that. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right now, I have two personal interests in my life right now. My three great granddaughters that I love very much and that I want to try to help out as much as I can, both now and financially later
Yeah.
on. But
Sure.
also my play, I'd like to get my play into production before I die somewhere along the line. You know, so I'm looking for somebody here in the United States as well who might take a look at the play and be interested. It's a perfect time for my play.
I think so. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's a
Yeah.
perfect time. It's a great play. I've had several stage readings of the play. It's been very well received. I have some very good actors here from the Hudson Valley. As a matter of fact, two of the actors, one of them looks exactly like Stalin. If you saw him, you think it was Stalin. And the other guy who is a Russian, his father fought in the Russian army. His name is Yuri. He looks just like Levante Beria, who was the Russian KGB chief at that time. Two lookalikes.
Yeah. Right. Interesting. What got you interested in spycraft and Russia and everything else?
Well, like I said, when I was doing research for my film, you come into contact with that era, the Cold War, and that's always interested me. So I happened to get involved in it, and over these two Army Air Force intelligence guys that were killed, and I've tried numerous times to get my to get some sort of uh, reaction from, let's say, the World Court or the United States Commission on Human Rights. And I've been turned down every time because the European Court, for instance, they were established, I believe, in 52 or 53. So they said it's not our jurisdiction, so they wouldn't look at the case. And the United Nations Committee on Human Rights, they said, well, it has to go through lower courts before it could come to us. The problem is that this kind of a case, there is no court in the United States that has jurisdiction over this kind of matter.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I've been stymied about that. So I've tried numerous times. I've sent information when Barack Obama was president. I've sent information when Bush was president. And I've sent information to Trump as well. And I've asked him to take an interest in the case. I know it happened a long time ago. These guys were killed back in August of 1947, which is a long time ago.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I mean, the film that you made was the documentary about Roswell. That's the title of that is Alien Connection.
Yeah,
Uh,
because you see, these two Army Air Force intelligence officers, they died while they were on a UFO mission. And they were sent from Hamilton Field in California to McCordia Field in Washington State to meet with a guy by the name of Kenneth Arnold. If you're a UFO buff, you'd know that he was the first one. He spotted 9 disc-shaped objects flying over the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. And this would be the first time that the terminology UFO was being used. So these two guys, Davidson and Brown, were sent to Washington State to meet with Arnold to pick up these 7 metal fragments that they said these two guys, Harvard patrol guys, said fell off a UFO. I don't know if the story was
right.
true or not, you know, but Stalin was very big on UFOs at that time.
Oh,
And it was,
really? Oh, okay. Oh,
he was a very big fan of UFOs because he looked at it in terms of scientific knowledge and military knowledge that he could gain from such
hmm.
an adventure. So I have a lot of information,
Yeah, sounds like it.
a
Yeah.
lot of documents.
Have you ever
And
been to Roswell, that area? I mean, when that in the
no,
south.
I've never been to Roswell. I've corresponded with people who have been to Roswell,
Mhm.
but I've never been to Roswell personally.
It just continues to fascinate everyone, just what's behind the scenes basically there, and just so many people have delved into that whole matter and about UFOs and everything else.
Yeah, it's a very interesting subject. And as I said, when I first started out investigating, I was investigating UFOs, and then I came into contact with the story on these two guys, and that's what more or less monopolized my time. And when I put my film together, most of the film deals with these two guys, Davidson and Brown. It deals also with Roswell because I come across 2 documents that no one else has.
Really?
One of them is a communication that came from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which in 1947 was known as Wright Field. And it says that President Truman visited Wright Field in Ohio secretly back in 1947, a month after the Roswell crash. Now, if you contact the Truman Library or if you contact the Library of Congress, they will tell you Truman never went to Wright Field. But I have documents that show that he did go to Wright Field. His airplane went to 8th Air Force while he was on vacation, which was called the Independence,
Mm,
flew out to 8th Air Force, supposedly where the alien bodies were taken.
really?
So,
Mm,
so mysteriously, his aircraft shows up at 8th Air Force and then mysteriously flies from 8th Air Force to Wright Field.
mm.
Why did they do that?
Yeah, that's strange. Yeah, there's all kinds of inconsistencies when people investigate UFOs and the government and everything else. So it's really quite interesting. And you try to get this movie shown in Russia, correct? Alien Connection, and that
Yes.
you have run into some problems there, correct?
Yes, I made arrangements, as I said, with the new filmmakers, and they gave me a link that I could send out to the theater companies over there so that they could view the film. And I found out later on that the Russian Federation had stopped them from gaining access to that link. So no one that I contacted and I told them about my film was able to see the film. Now I've contacted new filmmakers again, and my film is going to be shown again once they, with this pandemic situation. once that's cleared up, what normally happens is they show your film and you can come and be present when your film is shown. And you do a Q&A afterwards.
Yeah.
But if this is done again, I'll have to link again and I'll be able to try again to try to get my film seen over there.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's interesting of all the things you're doing. It really seems like you're kind of on the frontier of all this, getting your play made in Russia and this interesting film that you have currently to also be shown in the various places. You're kind of trying to delve in behind the scenes, basically, to uncover some unique events of history.
Yeah, you know, as I said, history has a way of coming back, repeating itself, and that's what's happened here in the Ukraine with Putin and his interest in trying to protect the sovereignty of the and security of Russia. And the same thing applied back in the Cuban Missile Crisis when we tried to protect the United States from the Soviet Union from bringing offensive nuclear weapons into Cuba. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
same thing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think he's going to invade all of Ukraine, or is he going to eventually pull back his troops? What do you think is going to happen down the road there?
Well, that's a very good question. You have many analysts on all of these
Yeah,
TV stations trying to predict what he's going to do. I think his ultimate goal, he's always been wanting to put together the old Soviet Union.
hmm.
He grew up at this. You know, Putin was in the KGB, as you probably know. He had two brothers. One of them died during childbirth, and the other one died during the siege of Leningrad. And he grew up in the KGB. And oddly enough, his mother was a Catholic. His
Oh,
father was, yeah, his mother was a Catholic and his father was a confirmed atheist. So
what's
somewhere in Vladimir Putin, there's a little bit of Catholicism roaming around in there. You know,
all right?
that's what I think. But I think that he's going to do everything that possible to maintain security. He doesn't want the Ukraine to be part of NATO, and I don't blame him for that, because the first thing that NATO will do is bring in these offensive nuclear weapons there, and he doesn't want that.
Yeah,
He doesn't want these. It's right on the border with Russia. Why would he want that to happen? You know.
yeah, right.
And you know, the sad part about it is Zelensky could have ended this whole thing and prevented this whole thing because Putin went to him from the beginning. Look, tell me that you're not going to go into NATO, and that's what I want more than anything else. But Zelensky, he said no. He says we want to be part of NATO.
Mm, hmm.
You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
so he
interesting.
more or less, you know, he's pushing, and now Zelensky wants different things from the United States. He wants this no-fly zone. If
Yeah,
that ever happens, that brings in NATO countries. If they get attacked, the United States is going to have to defend.
that would be a war right there. It'd be World War III right
We
there.
don't,
Yeah, very
we don't
scary.
want to.
No, I don't want that either. Now I'm here in Washington, D.C., so I certainly don't want that. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want any more Americans to be killed or maimed or anything.
No, I
Uh,
hear you.
let,
Yeah,
let the Europeans take care of this. And I've sent uh, Biden many, many communications. Let them handle it. It's their problem. Keep Americans out of it. If they want to take action against, let them do what they want, but no Americans should be on the ground fighting these people. We
have you sent
shouldn't.
any communications to the Putin email address there about what's going on currently in Ukraine?
Yeah, what I did was I told them that, well, not, no, I haven't sent Putin. I've sent Trump. I told Trump, I said, look, you're always bragging about the fact that you're on good terms with Vladimir Putin. Pick up the phone, call this guy up and see what you can do.
Yeah, right. I
You
think
know,
it's a good idea. Yeah,
couldn't hurt. And I've sent Biden the same thing. I said, look, send Trump over there to mediate.
yeah, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I agree with you. I said the same thing. Is there anybody there that gets along with them from the West? Send them over as emissaries and try to work out some sort of settlement. Yeah. So I agree with you
Yeah,
there.
I mean, first of all, he respects Trump. They've had a good relationship for 4 years. There was no problems between Russia and the United States until Biden got elected, right? And I think more or less it was the fact that he feared Trump. He says, well, if I do anything while Trump is president, he's going to act against me.
Right.
And that reminds me of Richard Nixon because Nixon was the same way. The Soviets feared him when he was
Yeah.
president.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, you have this respect and you're dealing from strength, not
Right.
from weakness.
Right.
know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Nixon brokered detente, and then you had Reagan later on that did things as well. So yeah, I think you're right about
Exactly,
that. Yeah. Well,
exactly, you
it's a
know?
very harrowing situation. So I hope you keep in touch with us about how far along your play goes, and I really hope it. You think it's well, I guess the situation now has to come to some sort of settlement between Russia and Ukraine
Yeah,
before then anything can move forward. I'm assuming, but you hope that.
I'm trying, I've been talking to these theater companies, radical theater companies, and I told them I want to come there to be able to speak with them and bring my play there and see if we can work out some sort of an arrangement. You know, to get into Russia, they have a great security system. You need
Yeah.
a visa.
Right. Sure. Tell us about that a little bit. Yeah.
You need a migrant card, right? That's what you need, a migrant card. It's like an ID card.
Mm.
And you need, most importantly, you need a sponsor. You can't get into that country without a sponsor, even unless you have relatives over there. You see, if you have relatives over there, there's a difference. But even if you're a theater company or a film company, somebody has to sponsor you to get into the country.
So you need a passport, a visa, a migrant card, and you need a sponsor.
Exactly. You do four things to get into it.
How
I
about
think
that?
it's a great system. Why?
Mm.
Because they know exactly where you're going to be. They have somebody who sponsored you. So if anything goes wrong, they're going to send this person to off to Siberia,
Mm.
right? You know, so they have constant contact. They know where you are. They know what your business is there as well,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And you're only there for a certain period of time because your visa will expire after a certain period of time unless you can get it extended, you know. So I've been working with these theater companies, the radical ones, and they're very interested in my play. The question is how to put everything together and get me over there. And
Mm.
I have a couple of actors that I'd love to bring with me over there. Like I've told you about the two actors who look very much like these old Soviet Union people, and they would love to go there and act with. And I've told them, I said we could do something with my play where my actors that I bring there will interact with your actors, so we could have this this exchange program with my using my play, and they're all for it. You know, but it's a
Yeah.
question of how to go about getting it done. Very difficult.
I'm just out of curiosity. If the it sounds to me the Russian government is going to finance anybody that does a play over there. They'll finance it. How much money do they make? I mean, compared to here in the United States, how much money does a writer make
Yeah.
there, or anybody else makes
Well,
there?
that's very interesting too. I looked into that, and the rule is that you negotiate. It's like here in the United States, when you're a playwright or a filmmaker, and you want a deal over there, you have to negotiate with people to come to an equitable financial agreement. That's the way it's done over there. It's the same thing that's done over here.
Oh, I see.
You
So
work
I
with
thought it might have been some sort of set, price or
well,
set list or something like that. That because since the government is funding it, everything is, put
well,
down.
I don't know how much the government allots them. They have a certain amount of money that that they disperse between all of these theater companies, and then there are a lot of theater companies in Russia. But like I said before, we're talking about traditional theater companies. The theater companies that I'm dealing with, they don't get any funding from the government. Okay, whatever they make on when they put together a production and they find a secret hideaway to do it.
Huh.
That's how they get their. That's how they make some money. But they've been very fortunate. They've had their operations disrupted several times. A couple of them have ended up in jail for a short period of time, but they've always been released, and they've always continued working on what they believe in. You know, and they're very anti-Russian. They're very anti-Putin.
Well, it's not as free as it is here, but it sounds to me like it's still a lot better than it used to be there when it was the Soviet Union. I mean, it looks like
Yeah.
playwrights and theater companies still have some freedom, but again, it's not perfect, but it's far from perfect, but it's still a lot better than it used to be.
And one of the reasons is Putin himself. Putin is a great believer in the arts, cultural arts. Usually attends the Moscow International Film Festival every year. He's a big, enthusiastic supporter of people who do plays. As long as they don't violate his protocols, he's all for it. You know, but
Right.
he's very culturally oriented.
Well, it's interesting that you have this relationship with Russia, and I guess to a certain extent with Putin. And here in the West, we just hear so many bad things about him. The demonization is is ongoing. And, what can you say to people here about what's really there, what's really going on in Russia? Is it as bad as they say it is? And, what should we do in approaching them and our view of Russia and Putin?
Well, that's one of the problems because not very many people have an opportunity to travel to Russia
Right.
to begin with,
Mm.
to uh, to associate with the people over there. I've only met certain people over the internet. I haven't met anybody, in person yet. I'd like to do that. But they're the proper, the news media over here is very anti-Putin at the moment. As you know, everybody's against
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
He's a warmonger. They're thinking about bringing him up on charges that he kills people and things like this. But they don't know this guy. And in the end, I believe that unless they can come to an agreement, a settlement, unless somebody can go in there and negotiate with Putin and Zelensky, somebody like a Donald Trump can do that, sit down with them and negotiate with them, then the Russians are simply going to crush this whole country, I think.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
think
so
there's
too.
any
Yeah.
way. And they're talking about sending them aircraft and things like this. What's going to happen is the same thing happened in Afghanistan. All of these weapons are going to wind up in the hands of the Russians. And that's what I think is going to happen. I
Right.
think it's too late. I think it's too late to send arms to the Ukrainians, and they
Yeah.
want to send aircraft. These pilots don't know how to fly MiGs. I don't think. Can we send them MiGs? Do
Right.
they really know how to fly them?
Yeah.
That's another
Mm.
problem.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see the United States get any more involved than we already are. I don't want any more Americans to get killed or lose an arm or lose a leg.
We've
I
had a
don't
lot
want
of wars in recent years, and I'm inclined to agree with you. It's good for us to have some
to.
periods of
Yeah.
peace.
Plus, the fact is, I'm sure there are Americans that live and work in the Ukraine. Nobody ever talks about them. What happened to these people?
Oh yeah,
There,
good point. Yeah, good point. I
there
almost
has to
forgot
be
about them. Yeah.
Americans over there. Yeah, there are
Yeah.
Americans over there who live and work there. What happened to them?
Yeah. Mm.
And
You're right about
so,
that. Yeah. I wonder what's happening. Are they able to get out?
well, you have all these private people now that are trying to get in there to help these people, like they did in Afghanistan. When we pulled out of Afghanistan, we left all these Americans there, and all these people that were helping the Americans, we just left them there.
Yeah, and we don't hear anything about that either nowadays.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some reports we're getting is some terrible things are happening in Afghanistan with regard to the Taliban and how they're treating the people who once worked for us and or were affiliated with people who once worked for us. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening out there that we don't know about. We need to know about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's very good for someone like you who's engaging with Russia during a period of time where it looks like they're going to be there's a movement to further isolate them and antagonize them, and to have a period of Cold War tension. So many people are young; they weren't even born in the '80s. They're born after the Cold War was over, so they don't know what it's like you and
Exactly.
I do, and others that lived through that period of time. It was a very scary period. Constant
Yeah,
tension.
because everybody thought there was going to be a world war.
Yeah,
Everybody said, well, they have offensive weapons in Cuba. What's going to happen? We're going to blow the world up. And now they're talking about World War III over here now with Putin. Putin is a very smart guy. He understands what the consequences would be if there was a nuclear war.
right.
Everybody gets obliterated.
Yeah,
If he sends missiles, we send missiles, or everybody gets killed. And I don't think he wants to do that. He's a rich guy. He's got interest all over the world. He's got this big, massive yacht that he that he takes out every once in a while and enjoys himself. So I don't think he wants that. I do think that he's an egotistical maniac that wants to put together the old Soviet Union, just like I think Donald Trump is an egotistical maniac. He really is. But Trump did a lot of good things for this country. And when Biden became president, he just reversed everything. And, I went to the gasoline station this morning, it was $4.17 for a gallon of gasoline.
I
I
know. I
couldn't
know.
believe it.
Yeah, I
It
know.
went up, it went up 25 cents from the day before.
Yeah.
How can that be?
Yeah, yeah. I have friends in
You know?
California that are telling me it's $6 a gallon and all kinds of horror. It's terrible.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then I just found out yesterday that we've negotiated a deal with the Iranians again. We're going to give them tens of billions of dollars, and we're going to buy their oil, and we're going to lift all those restrictions on them. What kind of maniac would do that?
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah,
I
it's
really
it's
do.
it's a whole different foreign policy that's getting involved in so many different areas, and I think it usually ends up bad for everybody, but it's just the way it is right now. So
What I tell people today is take care of yourself and your family because the government is not going to help you.
yeah,
You know, you've got to take care of your own family. And as I said before, I love my three great granddaughters, and I hope they're able to grow up in a good kind of place. You know, and that's what I look forward to. I try to spend as much time as I can with them. You know, I'm 74 years old now. I'm not in the best of health, but you know, I'm going to try to be around for them as
good.
long as I can and try to take care of them and financially as well if I can. Not that I have a lot of money.
Are you
I
working in
don't.
any other plays besides? Are you working in any other new plays at all?
No, no, I'm just going to focus in on this one play. I do have one or two other projects that I could go into that are totally different from this kind of thing,
Oh,
no
really?
more UFOs or just espionage and things like that.
Right.
None of that. But I really want to try to get this play in. And if you know somebody out there who's in the play business, tell them to get a hold of me and we can talk. And you know, I could send them my play. You can look it over. As I said, it's a very good play. And it's a very opportune time for this play. This play could make money.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Sounds
people
very
will come
interesting,
to,
no doubt about it.
yeah,
It's very
people will
appropriate
come to
for
see
today.
this
It gives
play.
us a synopsis
Yeah,
of what happened in the past. So maybe we can learn about it and understand
yeah,
the present better.
yeah.
Well, I hope you keep in touch with us about how far along this goes for you. Your current play in Russia, and to see if it would be great if it was made there, because then it'd be a fulfillment of all your work that you're trying to do. And so, yeah, definitely keep us posted.
I will do that. If there's any major changes, I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do.
And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all this time and to get out all of this information. I hope other playwrights have benefited from some of the things I talked about doing if they want to get something produced over there.
Yeah, I think so too, because it's always tough to produce a play. Generally speaking, it's always very hard, and it's good if there's other markets out there and other opportunities for people.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
so, yeah. Well, anyway, well, I wanna thank you very much, Michael, for being here with me today and to talk to me about your play. The title of it is
For
uh,
England, for England for love.
For England for Love, and you also have a film, Alien Connection,
Alien Connection,
and so you have a
exactly.
lot of activity going on. We just wish you the best. That this play gets made and in Russia or anywhere else, and hope everything turns out well for you.
Well, thank you again. I had a great time.
Great, thanks, Michael.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.